Some of you have terrific processes that work, and you get the data you need to make good decisions. Sometimes we work at schools, and our pre-referral processes need some support. Hey everyone, Jenny Ponzuric here with another Prepared School Psych podcast episode. Today, I wanted to talk about your school's pre-referral process. Some of you have terrific processes that work, and you get the data you need to make good decisions. Sometimes we work at schools, and our pre-referral processes need some support. Before I get going, let me clarify what I mean by the pre-referral process, because different terms are used in different schools. This is the meeting where you discuss student concerns brought forth by a teacher, staff member, or a parent. They can be called SSTs, student study teams, student success teams, CSTs, child study teams, child success teams, intervention progress monitoring teams, MTSS teams. The list goes on and on. When I worked at my 3 elementary schools, when I first started in this field 25 years ago, I walked in and noted what was working and what wasn't. Thank goodness I worked with some fantastic principals who listened to my feedback about the process and allowed me to make some much needed changes. As the years progressed, my teachers were used to me standing up at a staff meeting early in the year to review our process and tell them about any changes I was suggesting. I wanted to share some questions I considered before I went to talk with my principals. Number 1. How long is the process from the initial teacher referral to the first meeting? I had some teachers complaining that it would take months to get a meeting once they turned in a form. No wonder they were attempting to convince parents to write a letter requesting assessment. My teachers knew that got a quicker turnaround. So this was something I needed to work on with my team to make sure that teachers were getting ideas and support as soon as possible. Question 2, what type of data is collected right now by your pre-referral team? Have you ever walked into a pre-referral meeting and asked to see the data supporting the concern in reading or behavior and just received a blank stare? So, what type of data are those who make referrals currently bringing? Which will lead to question number 3. What type of data, if it were collected, would help you in your role? If your answer to the second question is not exactly what you would want in your role, then brainstorm what data would be useful. I personally think of pre-referral meetings as having a few main roles or jobs. One of them being monitoring student progress. If we were monitoring progress, I need to have some data to know what is working and what is not working. What's another role or job that these meetings have? A lot of times it's determining if moving forward with an evaluation for special education consideration is a good next step. Data would be super helpful here. And if we do move forward with assessment, the more data we collect at this stage, the easier the next part is. All right, question number 4. Are the referral forms useful for everyone who looks at them? I personally have been part of a number of committees that examine these forms that were being used in the process. Some of them are great. Some don't ask the right questions. Some are amazing, but they're never filled out completely or correctly. Whoever looks at these forms, do they find them useful? And the last question, what are the biggest complaints about the pre-referral process for those who use it? Now, you can probably easily list all of your frustrations. Have you asked others? Have you surveyed teachers? Have you asked other assessment team members? Now, once we have some data, I wanted to share 3 tips that might be useful if any changes need to be made. Number 1, collect data. And as you can see, some of those questions were about data. Collect some data about what's going on. What are the complaints? I have found that going to someone and complaining about the process without any data about the complaints other than my own thoughts doesn't really move the needle very far. But walking in with a list or some survey results, that can move things forward. Second tip, share all of your thoughts with a decision maker. Rarely, as a school psychologist, was I able to make changes to the pre-referral process on my own. So, who do you need to talk to? Is it the principal or another administrator? Do you need some teachers to be part of the decision making? And the third tip, offer some help. Notice I did not say do everything. Offer some help and see what happens. Okay, I hope these reflection questions and tips helped. No worries if you didn't get a chance to write everything down. Check the show notes and get access to the handout that summarizes this episode. And if you are already part of the Prepared School Psych community, check out our MTSS page for this handout. Until next time. That concludes another episode of the Prepared School Psych podcast. And I hope today's discussion equipped you not just with knowledge, but also the confidence to take action. Remember, every conversation we have and every resource we share builds a bridge towards a more inclusive and empowering learning landscape for our students. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast for more insightful conversations and resources to support your journey. Share this podcast with colleagues. We would love it if you would also rate and review the podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Just a reminder, everyone, the information and advice provided in this podcast are for guidance purposes only, and all listeners are required to follow both federal and state law and their own school district guidelines and policies. Thank you.